All right. Welcome. It is another Tuesday morning at 8 a.m., and you know what that means after a long weekend. We're back with Mr. Bill Tallarico, another Breakfast with Bill. Bill, to start off the show, first let me ask you, how was your holiday weekend?
It was great. It was actually very relaxing, and we had an opportunity to spend some time with friends over the weekend and had some ribs, which were fabulous. Thank you, Marcy Javaden. And we enjoyed some carefree timelessness yesterday as a family. How about you, Evan? You were away on vacation and traveling back. You took a little impromptu getaway, huh?
I was driving through the true American countryside, Virginia, West Virginia, beautiful roads, and it's just calming and peaceful. It's not like all highway. Sometimes you do a little winding, but it was a lot of fun. I was happy to have seen that part of the country.
Welcome back, buddy. We missed you last week. Good to have you back. And today, good to be back with all of you as well. We hope all of you had a safe and peaceful and relaxing Labor Day weekend. I had the opportunity over the weekend to talk a little bit about the Pinkertons, Andrew Carnegie, and Henry Clay Frick with my kids, and that was kind of exciting and enjoyable, and referenced the book See You in Hell, which was recommended to me recently by a buddy of mine, and describes the feud between Carnegie and Frick, and that time is what really brought us this weekend that we celebrate Labor Day, where we get to reflect and rest from the labor we do throughout the year. And I'm a big fan of work, right? And sometimes my wife teases me that I should just go to work, because when I'm home and I don't have routine and I don't have anything to do, I find trouble. And that trouble usually means me asking her, the kids, questions about why is this happening and why is it, and they don't like that. They don't like when I interrupt their routine, so they want me back in my routine. And one of the things I reflected on this weekend with them is the dignity of work, the great dignity of work that lets us realize who we are as people and find that meaning in life. And work is not bad. And we so often hear ways that people want to avoid work, or how we can get rid of work and not have people work so hard. And we should not live to work, right? It is, my heart breaks for those who work 2 and 3 jobs to just make ends meet. That's where it's imbalanced. But there is great dignity in the work we do. So hopefully you guys are rested and ready to find that dignity of the work we do today. I think of all the professions in the world, there's great dignity in sales, right? And those of us who have chosen sales roles as our career, as our future, is the means by which we support ourselves, our family, and then enrich society. There's incredible dignity in the work we do. And I'm fortunate enough to work with Duquesne University in their Sales Advisory Council. And Duquesne, a few years back, started a professional sales program. And in there, they allow students who have other majors, be it in marketing, accounting, whatever it might be, in the school of business, to then minor in sales so that they could become professional salespeople at some point. And I have the great honor of serving on that committee, and then by extension doing some guest lecturing there in the undergraduate and in the graduate school of business each year. And I try to convey to those salespeople the great dignity, the great value that there is in being a professional salesperson. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today in this concept of servant sales. I think we've all heard of servant leadership before, right? And we all know intuitively or instinctively what that means. Many of us have worked for somebody who we would say is a great servant leader. Many of us pride ourselves on being servant leaders. But when we think of being a servant leader, what does that mean? And I think we know that it means putting the other first, right? Servant leaders put their people first. They don't put their needs first. They put the needs of their team and their organization first. It means wanting the best for the other, right? Great servant leaders want what's best for their team. They want what's best for their organization. It doesn't just mean how do I do less. It means how do I empower others to do more. It means treating others with the inherent dignity and respect they deserve as humans, as a person, right? They see others as people, not as objects. And then by extension, they connect with them as people. And they understand their needs, and they understand their desires, and they understand their why as people. And many organizations are built on enhancing servant leadership inside of companies. There's a ton of sales consulting organizations that their single purpose is to develop servant leadership and servant leaders. But we never talk about servant sales, right? And we, as a matter of fact, most of us have a concept of salespeople, and we might even be salespeople and have this concept that being effective at sales has to be the opposite of what it means to be a servant leader. We think that to be effective at sales, I always have to be pushing and promoting what's best for me. One of the phrases you may have heard me say already, and if not, you'll grow tired of hearing me say it in the weeks ahead, is our quota is not their problem. And too many salespeople go into the world with that mindset, that our quota, our needs, our wants, our achievement is more important than the other. It's more important than their goals, and that's not true. Our quota is not their problem. So we need to figure out a way to connect with people and actually help them. So we love this concept here at the Tellerico Group of servant sales. And what does servant sales mean? Well, we said what servant leadership means. Servant sales doesn't mean anything much different, right? It means putting the other first. It means putting our customers, our prospects, our clients first. What are their needs? How do we help them achieve them? Just by putting their needs first doesn't mean we're going to lack success. I would argue the inverse. It actually means that we're going to have outrageous success when we first seek to serve others and help them. It means wanting what's best for the other. Sometimes that doesn't necessarily mean what I'm trying to sell today, but it means wanting the best for others. It means treating the other with the inherent dignity and respect they have as a human, that they deserve as a person, right? And it means connecting with them as people. It is not the antithesis of what people think sales needs to be. I would argue that if more salespeople took this approach to the world, people would have a much more positive outlook on what sales means and would be able to go about our role with much greater pride, right? Would have a much greater impact. So what are some of the traits of someone who's practicing the opposite of servant sales? How do you know if it's you, or how do you know if you're engaged with someone who is not a servant salesperson, but is quite the opposite? And I've never thought before about giving that a name or a title, but I think it's the objective or the objectifying salesperson. And we've all encountered the person that rather than treating us as people, rather than treating us with that dignity and respect we deserve, treat us as objects. And I think it's very transparent when you know that somebody's trying to use you to meet their own goals or meet their own needs. So some of the traits of someone who is the opposite of a servant salesperson, of an objectifying salesperson, is they're artificial in their approach to building rapport and building relationship. They're artificial in how they engage us, the language they use, and they can be too fluffy and think that they have to be that flowery and hey, how you doing guy, right, or girl. I've encountered one of those recently, and it wasn't fun. These people don't really listen to our problems and our issues. They're too busy promoting their own agenda. And, I lived an example of this recently, as I mentioned, where we were looking at buying some online marketing services. And the individual who we were working with, I had really liked and I still care about and I still think is a good person. But through the process was always seemed very engaged in wanting to know how I was doing and would just check in and would just want to follow up, right? That language that didn't add value, but the language of trying to connect because they had something they wanted to connect about. And as we talked about wanting to buy these online services, it was something that we were open to, but expressed that we just couldn't do it at this moment. And that wasn't good enough for them. They wanted us to do it on their schedule, on their time horizon, which, by the way, happened to coincide with the end of a quarter. So when you're promoting things that have to happen by the end of the quarter, if they don't have any value, if that end of quarter doesn't have value for me as a customer or as a client, that's objectifying sales, right? So as a salesperson, we need to connect their urgency to our urgency. And if we don't, if there is no natural connection there, then we just have to fill our pipeline better, right? Because again, our quota, whether it comes at the end of the year, at the end of a quarter, the end of a month, is not their problem. And when we're trying to rush people into hurried decisions by the end of the quarter, because we need that revenue, it breaks the connection, right? It breaks that alignment that must exist between us and our prospects. So when I explained back to this individual that, hey, we like what you're doing, we like the approach, we like your organization, and we think we want to work with you, just not this quarter or not this month, there was this instant break. And they went from being this very loving and fluffy and seemingly engaged person to expressing disappointment, total change in attitude, and a total disconnect that made it feel like everything up to that moment had been fake or artificial. And that was disappointing for us, right? Because we were investing in this individual and investing in their guidance and in their expertise and their experience. So that was a very negative for us. And you know, objectifying salespeople, when they hear no or not yet, they change, and that inauthentic facade falls away, and they reveal their true feelings for us. And we realized that the relationship wasn't that deep, right? It wasn't as connected as they wanted us to believe. And one way to know that if you're in one of those engagements or if you're one of those people is if your conversations with the other are always about surface level content. There's a great book by Matthew Kelly, who I reference often as one of my favorite authors, if not my favorite author. And Matthew Kelly wrote a book called The 7 Levels of Intimacy. And in that book, he talks about how to get to authentic or to true intimacy with the other. We have to go through this level of healthy conflict. And if we're talking about the weather or even politics, you know, like, hey, how about the election coming up? I don't know if you guys heard, there's a presidential election coming up in November. Probably haven't seen much or heard much about it. But if we're only talking about superficial things like that, we're never getting to true intimacy. When we have healthy conflict about something, and healthy conflict is you see something one way, I see it a little differently, and we're able to attack the issue, not each other, and we're able to talk about that issue and engage on, well, what if, right? You know, the what if we took this approach and what if we tried this? When we have that type of healthy conflict, which doesn't have to be vigorous debate, but just some type of healthy conflict, we break through to intimacy. When we're engaged in conversations about how was your weekend, no offense to you, Evan, I appreciate you asking about my weekend, but if that's the only conversation we ever had that was, hey, how was the weekend, or how you doing, or what's the weather like where you are, and those don't get us to intimacy, right? It's only when we can attack ideas together that we get to that true intimacy. So if we want to practice servant sales, we must put the other first and truly care for finding the right fit for them. We must want the best for them, right? This may mean something that's not as good for us in the short term, but will be very beneficial to us in the long term, because those short-term pauses or those short-term sacrifices as a salesperson where we take down a little win and position ourselves for the big win later have a tremendous impact. And I'm not saying go small. Please don't interrupt this as something where we're going small and playing small ball. We want to be able to go long. We want to win big. We want to win quick, because usually if we're practicing this right, that big win is what's best for them. So, but be mindful of, we might not get that big win today. We might want to position ourselves for that big win a little bit later. Evan, it looks like you might have something to share with me.
Yeah, we've got a quick note from Rocco Vital watching on Facebook. He said, "Morning, Bill."
Hey, Rocco,
and,
what's up,
I also had a question myself here, because as I'm kind of digesting what you're saying, if you're in a sales conversation with somebody and you're still at that surface level with them where you haven't really broken out of the small talk, what's a good question to kind of prod a little bit deeper with that person and get on that next level of relationship with them?
Sure. Well, Rocco, first of all, knowing you the way I know you, I think you're pretty good at getting through superficial conversations and not being afraid to go direct. You're very good at asking direct questions. And one of the reasons for that, Rocco, is because you're very vulnerable. Right? You're vulnerable in the sense that you're not afraid to let people see who you are. You don't take an inauthentic approach to people. You are authentic in who you are. That's the first step. So be authentic in what we do. We don't have to be Bill, the sales guy, like, hey, how you doing? And I don't want to offend anybody, and then be Bill the person. The more closely you can connect who you are to your engagement, because I don't think sales is fake. When we think sales is fake and I have to do something to manipulate somebody into wanting to work with me, that's where we become inauthentic. When we recognize that who I am is good enough to be successful and be engaging and be the person that can help people solve their problems, we're fine. That's one way. So be vulnerable, be authentic. But then when we talk about those actual questions, get them into the professional realm. You know, Rocco, we talk about starting our meetings with, hey, Evan, thanks for your time today. I want to learn as much about your business as I can, answer any questions you have about ours. Before we get started, what were you hoping we could accomplish today? When we ask that question at the beginning of a meeting, we call that agenda and expectation setting. When we ask that question at the beginning, people tell us why they took the meeting, right? They'll tell us why they're investing their time with us. So get to that. And then when we see issues, you have to be able to challenge somebody in a professional way. You don't want to say, man, that's so stupid. Why would you do that, right? But ask the question of, have you considered? Have you thought about? What if we did, right? And in your case, Rocco, in the live entertainment space and in the pyrotechnic space, the fireworks industry, which is easier for me to say, when you're challenging somebody about show themes or show approach, you're expressing to them your expertise, right? You're demonstrating for them your expertise. So for those of us who are experts in our field, we have to be able to offer people alternatives and ask them, you know, once we get into the what were you hoping we could accomplish today, it's a very easy transition into a business conversation from a superficial weather conversation. And then once we're dealing with ideas with them, take it along. Like, just keep extending that conversation into what if, have you considered, how would that impact? You know, those type of statements. So, all right. Thanks, Rocco, for that question. Evan, please let me know if we have any more that pop up. So jumping back into putting the other first and wanting what's best for them, we need to know from that it might not be the short-term win that is the big deal, but that big deal will come. So we want to get that win that positions us to start working with somebody, even if it's smaller than what we really want, because that engagement and that working with somebody is critical. Servant sales also means treating others with dignity and respect. This includes respect for their decisions. So when somebody tells you, hey, I need a couple weeks, right? We don't want to challenge them with statements like, oh, I thought growing your business was important to you, because you don't know what's going on in their life. You know, you just don't. So when we start challenging people and thinking we're going to challenge them into a decision, to me, again, inauthenticity. Why? Are we that shallow? Do we think that little about ourselves? Are we that uncomfortable and lack confidence in who we are and our organization that we can't say, yes, I get it. Help me understand when's a good time. Is 2 weeks enough time for you? Set your clear next step. Be a professional. Treat their decisions with respect. It doesn't mean we take our first no and go home. Please don't run back to your bosses today and say, I listened to this guy this morning, and he said, when somebody says no, I have to accept that. That's not what I'm saying. We just want to practice professional sales, which means we're not manipulating people into the decisions we think they need to make for us. We want to help them find solutions that are good for them. It means helping them understand the problem we're trying to solve. It means removing any of those roadblocks that exist between our current state and them working with us. It means we have to be really good at asking, confirming, and clarifying questions to that end. It means caring for them, right? Care for them as an individual, especially now. People are hurting. I mean, everybody has something on their mind. Well, I was talking to someone the other day about school. You know, my kids, they go to a school here in Pittsburgh called Seton LaSalle Catholic High School. And at Seton LaSalle, they've decided to go back 5 days a week. So my kids are in school every day, in person, live and in Keller. There's other people that are going to school and their kids might be going 2 days a week or completely from home. And that creates whatever scenario that is, whether it's full-time back in person, whether it's virtual or whether it's a hybrid solution, it brings stress to the family, right? Your kids go to school, you're wondering, am I doing the best thing for them? Are they? So there's stresses that people are carrying throughout their day. Be mindful of that, right? Don't think that everybody's in this very clear state. Right now, everybody's dealing with something, whether it's a sick family member, whether it's problems with cash flow, whatever it might be. We need to treat people with dignity and respect and not railroad them and just try to run through them with things that are important to us. So it means caring for them. And if we do this well, we build trust, right? When we treat people with dignity, respect, we show them we care, we put them first, it helps us build great trust. It builds enormous trust. Our definition of trust here at the Tellerico Group is trust is what occurs when our actions and our words are consistent over time, right? So when our words and our actions are consistent over time, we build trust. And if we can build trust, I always say trust is that one product we're all selling. Whether you're like Rocco and you're selling live entertainment, you're selling special effects to the live entertainment industry, whether you're like Craig Roush out there who is selling professional clothing, and I would say selling an experience to his clients and his customers, whatever it is you're selling, right? If you're like Ansys, who's one of our dear partners who sells the most complex software that you can think of, whatever it is you're selling trust. That's the one product we all sell. So the better, the more effective we are at building trust, the more effective we're going to be in all that we do, the greater our results, and we can't help being successful if we show that we care about the other and we build great trust. So you can only build trust when you're being authentic. All right. So Evan, any final questions for us before we wrap? All good?
Yep.
All right. So, well, thank you, everyone. We went a little bit long today. Hopefully I didn't hold you back from anything. Really appreciate you spending time with us on Tuesday mornings. Next week, we'll be back with a topic to be determined. But between now and then, if there's anything that you guys are dealing with or any topics you'd like us to address, please either email those to us. You can go to our website, tellericogroup.com. Please don't judge us. We're in the process of updating that website. You can also go to our LinkedIn page and enter a comment there for us, and we'll certainly include those topics in future shows. So thank you all. Take care. God bless, and good to be back with you all.